Welcome to Buns on the Run Bakery. We're famous for our buns, cinnamon that is, but we also do breads, cookies, muffins, party platters, gift baskets, candies, almost anything you can think of. I also have a brand new YouTube channel called Shay May May. Why Shay May May? Mamie is what my grandson calls me, and he's my favorite cooking partner. So, welcome to Buns on the Run, welcome to Shay May May, and we hope you enjoy. Bienvenue chez May May. Welcome to May May's. It's fall, and fall to me means things like hot apple cider, muffins made with pumpkin, and some good soups and stews. Last night we had a roasted chicken with some roasted fall root vegetables, and so today I'm going to make some chicken soup stock out of that, and then later I'll turn it into a soup. So I've got the carcass of my chicken. It was a pretty large chicken, so I broke it into a few pieces, the bones. I'm just going to throw that in there. And then I'm going to throw in some aromatics, they call them. Got a couple of carrots that I have in the fridge. I'm not going to peel them. I washed them. That's all you need to do, because this is going to come out of the stock before I make the soup, so there's no need to take the time to peel them. And then I've got some celery from the refrigerator. When I get this home from the grocery store, I always wash it and cut off the root end and just store it in the refrigerator, so it's always ready to go for me. Now when I'm making soups and stocks, I want to include the part that has the great leaves. So that's actually what I'm going to go for here, is the leaves. And I'll save this later for snacking or other soup or whatever. Okay, and then I've got one small onion. This is a Spanish onion. You don't have to use this. This is just what I had laying around the kitchen. So I'm just going to have it, because again, this is going to get fished out of the soup or the stock before I make the soup. And so I'm just going to throw that in. I've got about a half teaspoon of whole peppercorns. I've got a few sprigs of fresh thyme. I've got a couple of bay leaves. And then I'm just going to throw in a couple of cloves of whole garlic. Again, no need to chop it up. This is all just for aromatic purposes, so you probably could even leave it in with the skins on, but I like to take the skin off because it gets garlic flavor releasing faster. And then I'm going to fill this up with some water and put it on the stove and let it cook for hours, literally hours. And then I'll strain it, and I'm going to make a chicken and vegetable soup with tortellini, my daughter's favorite. And that's all there is to making soup stock. So this is what it looks like in the pot. I'm going to cover this, bring it up to a boil, and then I'm going to turn it down and simmer it for several hours, at least 2 or 3 hours, until the stock looks rich and golden. Last night for dinner, we had a roasted chicken with some roasted root vegetables, and today I'm going to take care of the leftovers. I've already got a pot of chicken stock going, and that's going to turn into a chicken vegetable soup with tortellini. And then with the leftover chunks of chicken I have, I'm going to make my take on a Midwestern hot dish. Now the term hot dish did come out of the Midwest about the 1930s, and probably the most famous one, of course, is the tater tot casserole, and this is going to be my take on that. So I've got a little bit of olive oil there in the pan, and I've got about a half of a medium onion, or about a half cup. And we're going to get that sauteing. It's just my husband and I, so I'm just going to make a small portion, enough for the two of us for dinner and a little bit left over for him to take for his lunch. Okay, these onions are starting to get soft. I'm going to add 1 large clove of garlic that I chopped up. I diced it very finely. And you don't want to leave the garlic in there by itself too long because it'll burn pretty fast. Next, I'm going to add an 8-ounce package of baby Bella mushrooms. You can use button mushrooms or whatever kind you like. This is just what I had in the refrigerator. And I'm trying to make this all leftover / pantry pull. So everything I'm using in here today is stuff I already had at home. Didn't feel like going out to the grocery store. Turn that up a little bit because those mushrooms will take that heat nicely. Okay, so out of this I'm actually going to make a roux. I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And just kind of stir that around. We're going to let that cook for a minute or two so we don't get a raw flour taste. I'm also going to add about a tablespoon of butter. The olive oil does have the fat, but the butter brings a little bit more flavor. And I need a little more fat to thicken up this roux anyhow, so I'm adding a little butter in there. Okay, so the flour and butter and oil are all incorporated. It doesn't look much like a roux because it's coating the mushrooms, but it is there. And I just added 1/4 cup of dry Marsala wine. I like to put either Marsala or maybe a sherry in there. It gives a little more depth of flavor, especially because this is autumn and we want a nice hearty dish. And then to that I'm going to add 1 cup of unsalted chicken stock. I like to use the unsalted because then I can control the amount of salt in the dish. Because when regular chicken stock cooks down, that salt factor condenses. It can be way too salty. So we're going to stir that in and let it mix in a bit with that roux. You can see it's already starting to look like a little gravy. Speaking of gravy, I had about a cup left of gravy from last night's chicken dinner, so I'm going to put that in there and extend this sauce. And this was just pan drippings, little flour, and a tiny bit of cream. And so now you can see we're getting a nice, thick, rich sauce for our hot dish. And we'll let that cook for just another minute or two to get it a little thicker. Okay, that sauce is starting to look nice and thick. Now yesterday was also Sunday, which means Green Bay Packer football. So for a football snack, I made some homemade pretzel bites with some homemade cheese sauce, and I'm going to use just about a 1/2 cup of that to thicken this sauce up even more. Give it a little cheesy flavor. Now I don't want it to be predominant. That's why I only added about a 1/2 cup. And now it's looking really thick and gorgeous and just about ready to go into the casserole dish. Before I do, I've got about a teaspoon of chopped basil, fresh, and the same with some fresh thyme leaves, which I chopped up. I'm going to add a good pinch of pepper and just a little pinch of salt because we do have salt, some in the gravy that I made, and of course some in the cheese sauce as well. So I don't want to go overboard on the salt. I'm going to give that a stir. Okay, now we're going to add the chicken. I've got 2 cups of chopped up chicken left over from the roasted chicken, and I saved the rest to go in my chicken soup. So you can see we have a nice hearty chicken and mushroom base there. I'm going to let that cook down just a little bit, and then we will assemble our beautiful hot dish. Okay, so our sauce is thickened up nicely. I'm going to give it a little taste just to see if I need any salt in there. Maybe a pinch, just a pinch. So now we're going to take it over to the counter and begin to assemble this beautiful hot dish. So now it's time to assemble the hot dish. I am going to add a little celery. I didn't put it in earlier because I want the celery to keep a little bit of that crisp. So I'm just going to use a half of a stalk and dice it up pretty fine and throw it right in. And the nice thing about making these hot dishes is you can kind of do what you want with it. If somebody doesn't like mushrooms, leave them out. If somebody's allergic to garlic, leave it out. If you don't like basil, put in some tarragon or dill. Tarragon's really good in the summertime for this kind of dish. All right, so I'm going to put the chicken and mushroom mixture in here, and I am using a slotted spoon because I've got a lot of gravy here, maybe more than I need. So I'm going to try to scoop out all the chicken and mushrooms, and a lot of the gravy is coming along for the ride. Okay, so I've basically gotten all the chicken and mushrooms out, and there is a bit of gravy left. It's not going to go to waste. My husband likes his things extra saucy, so I'll just serve this hot on the side. But you could also freeze it, and next time you make some mashed potatoes or just boil some potatoes, you could use it on there. It'd be wonderful. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is add some vegetables. You will rarely see me opening a bag of frozen vegetables. I do keep them in the freezer for nights I need to make a quick dinner, because you can make a quick soup or something. But for this particular hot dish, it's actually important to use frozen vegetables. So I just bought a mix. It's got peas, carrots, corn, and green beans. And I just want to put a layer on. So it's probably going to be about 2/3 of this bag. Beautiful. Okay. Then on top of that, I'm going to put potatoes. Now normally this dish is done with tater tots. I've also seen it done with hash browns. But like I said, this is my twist. So I'm going to do what I would normally do to do a French potato galette, which is slice them with the mandible. And you want to slice them pretty thin. I had 3 of these Yukon Gold potatoes left. So I decided to go with those. And as you can see, they're pretty thin slices. This is why you want frozen vegetables. By the time those vegetables thaw and finish cooking, the potatoes will also be done. And I'm going to fan them around. This is how I would do a potato galette, which is basically just these potatoes with some butter, salt and pepper in between. I also add caramelized onion and Parmesan cheese into mine to make it a little more fancy, a little gooey. So you can see that one potato gave me just a little more than the 1 layer that I need. So I only need a little bit more off this second potato. And I'll save the rest of this for mashed potatoes or something. And we're just going to finish our fanning. In fact, I'm going to take those tiny ones out. Get some bigger ones going in here. Get a little more consistency in my look. And then one for the middle. And then I'm going to drizzle this with a little olive oil so those potatoes get nice and crispy. And I'm going to put on a little salt and pepper, and then I'm going to throw it in the oven. So while the hot dish is baking, I'm going to show you what I did with the leftover potatoes. So this is about how much leftover potato I had. It was a potato and a half. Got a little butter, a little olive oil in here. I'm just going to throw these in. No rhyme or reason. It looks like there's not enough room in the pan, but there will be. And I'm going to cover them and put them on medium-low heat for a bit. And what's going to happen is that's going to steam the potatoes. Then I'll come back, take the lid off, add some onion. I had onion left from that half onion I used earlier. A little bit of garlic, a little salt and pepper. And then I will let those cook a little longer, and then I'll fry it up until it's like one big crisp pancake, and my grandson and I can eat that for breakfast tomorrow. So here's our potatoes. They're getting a little bit crispy. We've got some nice soft sauteed onions in there. I'm going to let this cool off, and I'm going to put it into the fridge. And then tomorrow morning I will reheat it in the pan, scramble 2 eggs and pour that in. Maybe some crumbled bacon, a little cheese on top, and we'll have a beautiful breakfast frittata. So I've got some sliced sourdough, and this is my cheese sauce from yesterday's football snacks. It's almost like a pimento cheese spread now. The only real difference is I've got Calabrian chili in here instead of pimento, little spice. And I'm going to spread a thick layer of this on. And then I'm going to put it under a broiler for just maybe 10 seconds or so, just to get that melted and bubbly. Okay, so here's our final product. I did put a little Parmesan cheese on the last 10 minutes and put it under the broiler. And we're going to dish this up. The potatoes are tender. The vegetables are still holding their integrity. They did not get mushy. Got a beautiful sauce in there. And then the cheese on the toast was just starting to bubble. Ooh, and it's hot. Didn't want to leave it in any longer because I didn't want to burn the toast. There's our dinner. And I'm going to give this a taste. Ooh, it is quite hot. Get some potato, get some of those vegetables, some of the chicken, piece of mushroom. Give it a taste and hope it's good. So delicious and satisfying, a true fall classic. Hope you enjoy it.